This episode is brought to you by Snapple. Want to know another Snapple fact? The first hot air balloon passengers were a sheep, a duck, and a rooster. Ridiculous. Check out Snapple.com to find ridiculously flavored Snapple near you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Underrated Movie Podcast. I am your host, Derek McDuff, and this is a podcast where we discuss films that are underrated, underappreciated, and ones that have just slipped under the radar and passed most people by. I am joined today by a musical expert of sorts, somebody who knows a lot about concept albums because he is one of the hosts of the Album Concept Hour, Brad LeBaron. How's it going, Brad?
Hey, what's going on, man? That's going all right. I'm glad to be here. Talk about a music movie. You know, this is like way up my alley, so I'm glad that you got me in for this one.
Yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, as we were kind of implying, the movie we're going to be talking about today is Interstella 5555, the story of the secret star system. I don't know if it's pronounced 5555 or 45. I've never actually heard it spoken.
It's 4 or 5, I guess. Officially, but I still don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, as we were saying, it's essentially a hour-long music video of the entire album Discovery, which is of course Daft Punk's second album. This being a sort of a concept album, I had to call the podcaster who knows the most about that, since you do an entire podcast about concept albums. Before we get into the movie, we want to let the people know about your podcast.
Yeah, so interesting thing, but before I get to that, interesting thing about this movie and the album is like the album proper is its own concept, and then this is a concept unto itself. So it's almost an album with two concepts,
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a podcast. Me and a couple co-hosts have a podcast called the Album Concept Hour, where we discuss a new concept album every week. I'm a big fan of like movie podcasts, movie commentaries like this one. How did this get made? Of course, is like, one of the older mainstays that got me into podcasting. And this like was kind of my like experiment. Like, I wonder if you could talk about albums the way that you talk about movies.
Yeah.
Seeing as there's not the visual medium, obviously, but there is a lot of storytelling that happens in albums. And yeah, I want to focus on that aspect of albums because I'm always, I listen to albums start to finish, always have. I prefer a record to a single. And yeah, I've learned a lot about some of the music that I like, some of the music I don't necessarily like that I've learned to like. And yeah, we sometimes there's a big concept, and then sometimes there's no concept at all, it seems. So sometimes we discover that as we go through. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll be covering Daft Punk Discovery kind of in tandem with this a little bit. They'll be like a month apart, I think. But I love Daft Punk, and I'm super excited to get into this.
Yeah, this will be a blast. I'm also a big fan of Daft Punk. I have been for many, many years. A huge fan of theirs. I remember discovering this movie in like high school, and I would just watch it on YouTube all the time. And I would like, it was one of those like fall asleep things, because music and movies are always good to fall asleep, and this is both. And yeah, I think this one is interesting because it kind of falls in that perfect Venn diagram of being able to talk about a movie and being able to talk about an album. There's not a lot of stuff like that, but this is one of them for sure.
Yeah.
But to just give a little bit of info on the movie, aside from being it's an animated film. I don't know if we mentioned yet, the visual companion, of course, to Discovery. And it was, the story was written as much as, there's not any dialogue, but there's still a lot of visual storytelling going on that was written by Daft Punk, and they brought in Toei Animation. Forgive me, I'm probably going to butcher some of these Japanese names. Kazuchi Takenouchi was the director, and it was supervised by the legendary Leiji Matsumoto, who I believe came out of retirement to work on this movie. He was a hero of Daft Punk's, when they were growing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a science fiction musical fantasy spectacular. Brad, I'll let you though have the first word on it. What do you think about this movie?
So, first and foremost, it's such a masterclass in visual storytelling in general. Like, I am just amazed at the amount of detail that can be put on the screen, even when the lyrics like have little or nothing to do with what's going on in the videos. You get to know who your main characters are, what the stakes are, the technology that they're using. You get to there's a villain that's clearly the villain. Like the villain even gets a somehow you get the villain's backstory with some of the visual storytelling with the book. That's the part that I'm probably the most amazed about, because this is something that a lot of bands talk about wanting to do, but not very often is it actually made and taken to completion. Like, for instance, the Gorillas. The Gorillas have been trying my entire life to make a movie, and just poor guys have not been able to get the funding or whatever to make it happen. And they were so close with Netflix a couple of years ago. But yeah, this is like something that like Gorillas have always wanted to have. Being one of the best examples, I think. Yeah, it's just such an interesting project, a world-spanning project going from France to Japan, and then obviously to the U.S. with us. Yeah, I don't know. So when I first knew about these music videos, I had no idea they were connected. I just I would randomly come across the Daft Punk music videos, and then somewhere in my 20s, I think someone's like, "Did you know that that's actually a movie?" I'm like, wait a minute, what? Why would it be a movie? I thought it was just like fan-made music videos, fan-made anime videos or something,
Yeah.
But yeah, then finally watching the whole thing is like, wow, I've never seen anything like this, So yeah, one of a kind.
Yeah.
That's my short kind of synopsis of this experience.
Yeah, totally. Because every once in a while, a band will do this where they'll have their music videos kind of be interconnected. I think Green Day did it once, and
Yeah.
and and they'll be vaguely a story, but like kind of not really.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's the thing is like if you've just seen the music video for One More Time and like Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, something like that, which were probably I'd say I mean, there's a lot of popular songs on here. I think those were the ones that were like the big ones, especially like in terms of watching music. You might be like, oh, there's like a couple like things that are similar, but then you're like, when you have those other songs to interconnect them, and then you have all the songs that follow it, it is a really spectacular story. And yeah, like you were saying, it really speaks to the power of storytelling in a visual medium like this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need any dialogue. There's a couple sound effects. Other than that, it's just essentially just a hour-long music video.
Yeah.
And
it's an actual space opera,
Yeah.
Like a lot of people try to make a space opera, but this is like from almost every stretch a space opera,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got so much, you understand it on both a storytelling level, and you also really get the themes that it's putting down. Because on one hand, it's like, yeah, this is a cool space opera with an awesome ship that looks like a guitar and like robot people and battles and sacrifices and all this crazy stuff going on. But another level, it's like, yeah, this is a movie about like the commodification of art and about how artists are used and like particularly musicians, but any kind of artist really is just kind of like fuel for this machine for these evil corporate execs. And I'm sure that Daft Punk put a lot of themselves into that. So I thought that was all really well done. And it's a lot of stuff that you would think on the surface doesn't work well together. It's like, oh yeah, like there's like this guy who's got this like ancient evil magic, and he wants to get a bunch of gold records so that he can take over the universe, and people are going around, and there's blue people, and there's a little Beethoven kid at one point.
The Beethoven kid immediately gets sacrificed.
it doesn't seem like it should work, but like it all kind of comes together in this pretty spectacular way.
Yeah. There's not a lot of named characters or whatever, but the ones that you get to sit with, you really do get to understand them to an extent. Specifically Shep is kind of, I don't know if he's our point of view character or whatever, but he is the kind of guy, he's like the hero of the show. You know what I mean? Like after the band gets, stolen or kidnapped from their planet, he's the one that is going after them to try to bring them back. And there's a lot of really interesting characters. Yeah, like I think like what you were saying though, there's the other attempts at doing this type of thing. We have, the Daft CD or DVD that came out a few years prior for Homework, which is a story about dogs, androids, firefighters, and tomatoes. And I watched that during my research for this, and I'm like, this is not connected at all. Except for the last music video, they try to kind of bring it back to the first music video. But yeah, obviously they learned from that and made a more cohesive story. So, and this is like the middle movie of like three, the Daft movie, this, and then there's their what's it called, Machine or something, where it's another movie that they created. So yeah,
I didn't even know about those ones.
Yeah, there's this like weird kind of extended universe of Daft Punk that I discovered while doing some research for this. This is definitely the most cohesive and the most like put together. But yeah, they definitely have a love of cinema and film, and they want to express themselves that way if they get the chance.
And I really like that this one is experimental. It does, like we were saying, because it does all this interesting stuff with visual storytelling, but it doesn't feel like some experimental films you watch that feel like I gotta have a film degree to like understand this. This has a pretty low barrier of entry.
That's true.
Especially if you're a music fan, you can kind of just really jump right into this.
Well, like the whole trope of like, a band being absorbed by the music industry and the commodified and used and abused and then thrown out, like, that's been covered by many different like bands. Pink Floyd probably being the most popular with like their songs like Have a Cigar and, some of the Experience of the Wall. Yeah, to see it so like succinctly, told, that same story being told. And actually having like this whole like conspiracy and everything surrounding it, like going to other planets to steal aliens to get gold records, like you said, it like shouldn't work, but like it totally does. Like it just it feels right.
Yeah,
such an odd thing to put together.
Yeah, and you brought up Pink Floyd, and I think maybe the closest comparison you could make is something like The Wall, but that does have dialogue and interstitials and stuff like that, and the music in that is actually relevant to what's going on, where it's the lyrics in this aren't necessarily what's happening, and it's interesting because I think it switches a lot between diegetic and non-diegetic. Like that first,
that's true. Like
One More Time is being performed by the Crescendos, the band within the movie, and then you go into Aerodynamic, and it's Shep up there, and he's like listening to that. He's like, he's kind of slips into his daydreams, and both of those do a really good job, by the way, of establishing character. With once again only visuals, because you get the Crescendos, you understand who they are, you understand what they mean to like this as musicians and stuff like that, and then all the like attacks happen, and it kind of switches into non-diegetic. And then you have then the next song, you have Shep up there. You get who his character is. You get why he's, it sets up the arc that he's going to go on. Where he cares about this band a lot, especially Stella. Like he's
he's got like he's got like a fanboy crush on Stella. Like we've all had a fanboy crush on a female bassist at some point or another.
Exactly.
Like,
who hasn't been there?
Yeah. It's part of music history, I love that she is the bassist too, because I mean there are so many great like female bassists throughout the years that are just like cool and like don't talk a whole lot. They just play the bass and they're just cool as hell. So yeah, I'm glad that she kind of maintains that kind of trope within music.
Yeah. And then when they finally meet, he like saves the other band members. He doesn't get a chance to save her, and
Yeah.
then eventually the band goes back and saves her, but he's already mortally wounded at that point, and it kind of calls back
Yeah.
to that initial dream sequence that he had. But now he's teaching her and along with the rest of the band about who they truly are because their memories have like been stolen and put on these like floppy disks essentially.
Yeah. We should go over the like kind of early parts of the plot here. So you mentioned a little bit. They do their big performance of One More Time, which like catches the ear of the evil record executive that it's going throughout the cosmos looking for bands. That, like you said, is mostly a performance, straight up music video. You don't really need to know the rest of the plot to appreciate it. But yeah, then the takeover, and like it's a really sinister kind of takeover too, like a bunch of like faceless goons that are like break into the facility and shut down the lights, and then like sleep gas the entire crowd. But the guitarist Arpeggius is running away, and what I really really like about it, it's not like diegetic necessarily, but during the scene where he's like running from these goons is like a endless guitar solo thing, and he's the guitarist.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I see what you're doing, film. You're you're connecting things. And then yeah, of course, like he gets cornered and caught. And then, like you said, they get to the guitar ship where Shep is, which again, the ship, if you're to like
It's
think
so
of it
fucking
logically
cool.
or whatever, it's like, why would it be shaped like a guitar? This isn't this doesn't make sense. But like, you don't need to think about it like that. It is just so fucking cool that there's a spaceship shaped like a flying V guitar.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something with the whole theme of this movie. It's like
V.
It doesn't.
Oh shit! Okay, maybe they were thinking about that.
Maybe so, but yeah, like so much stuff in this movie, it doesn't make like necessarily logical sense, but all of it makes emotional sense, which I always argue is so much more important in the movie. As long as it doesn't like take you out of it, you understand the world that you're in. Right from the beginning, they put you in this world and it never breaks its own rules. You get why this would have a flying V guitar ship, and why an ancient duke would be able to like sacrifice people and get gold records to take over the it's like it's one of those things. It's like A, kidnap aliens and make them make music. B, sacrifice them. D, take over the universe. What is C? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No. Why are they taking the universe over the universe? For what reason? Not important.
Not important. Because you get all of that you need from the visuals. You're like you understand the stakes.
Yeah.
And it's there. You don't need to have some complicated, in-depth mythology and lore, which I appreciate always when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
But in an hour-long movie music video, this is exactly perfect. This is what you need.
And at first, like, you might, if you're watching your first time, you might not know what's happening, like why they're being kidnapped all of a sudden. It's like, oh, they're a bunch of musicians. Why would they be kidnapped? And then you get to Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, where you see the whole commodification process. And it's almost really on the nose, because they're like being literally like given new skin tones. They're being like stamped into humans from their alien form throughout this like conveyor belt type situation. The memories are stolen and replaced. Well, there's a really cool thing, like that's what I mean. Like the technology is really interesting. They have this thing that can like replace your memories with like human ones, which I found was just really cool. They're given these new memories and new identities, and just stripped of their, I was gonna say stripped of their humanity, but they're stripped of their alienness actually. And meanwhile there's the record executive that's just like laughing evilly like throughout the whole thing. First you only see him in shadow, and then eventually you see his whole like silhouette and face once they're all transformed. And it's like, I feel like at that point in the movie you like start to understand what the movie's message is, or where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Earl of Darkwood, by the way, which
Yeah.
is like okay, yeah,
Earl
like
of Darkwood.
that's perfect for that character. Like
Yeah.
you know, yeah, because it will just give you like bits and pieces of like text on the screen where you know who the the characters' names and stuff.
Yeah. They go through pretty fast too. So if you're
Yeah.
not paying attention, you don't really know who's who.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily really matter, but
Not
it's,
really.
it's nice to just like be like, okay, cool. That's who this is. The Earl of Darkwood. He lives at this evil, spooky castle. She
Yeah.
finds that like holographic business card or whatever of his that has the address and everything and the time.
And
which,
the exact
there's a
time.
lot of
Right.
yeah,
The exact time
the,
they're doing their evil, sketchy thing. They got
which is
on
of
the
course
card.
5:55. Like it's got to be
Yeah. 3 5s.
Yeah, all the fives in this movie.
Yeah. I love that they have all these little details, and because of the fact that they have Leiji Matsumoto, who has done a lot of space operas. That's his kind of main style in his animes. I also, while I was doing my research, noticed that he had one called Galaxy Express 999. So
I saw that too. Yeah, I
for
was
him,
like,
it's almost like
right.
it's another. I don't know if it's in the same universe or what, but they're both space opera universes. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love all that little like the sci-fi stuff throughout. Like it's just so well thought out. Like when Shep gets ready to go, blast off into the stars, there's this harness that comes over top of him, like a roller coaster harness or something.
Yeah,
but like little details like that, where he's at, like the artist is actually thinking about some of the science behind it,
mm-hmm.
even though it's like this fantastical story. Those are the little details I think that really, really ground it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's just a lot of like really cool sci-fi shit in this, like
oh yeah.
and it's interesting because it's like futuristic, but it's also this is a movie like made in like the early 2000s or whatever, so it's like almost retro future. It's like, oh, this like cool technology where your brain will be saved on a disc, and it's like this futuristic disc, but it's the future. It's a futuristic version of a disc from like 1999 or whatever. So you're like, that, I kind of love that retro futurism.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of
The visual style of it is so much better for the storytelling, I think, probably. And obviously this came out in 2002, so obviously it actually kind of correlates with the technology that is being used still.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, whereas now it would be like a thumb drive or something boring.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever, just like you go on the cloud.
Yeah. We
like
uploaded you to the cloud. Let's visualize that on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I really think that a lot of that visual storytelling goes into some more themes of the movie, which I think is just like beyond whether or not somebody is these artists are being controlled by these big evil corporations. The power of the music still transcends, and I think that is one of the ultimate messages is that the whether it's the aliens on their homeworld or the people on Earth, everybody really just appreciates and is so moved by the music of the crescendos. Even the other guy, like, because there's like obviously he's like their manager or whatever, but like the record producer, he's ultimately like he's like, oh wow, like he was getting kind of duped by everybody, and he's like, yeah, I want to see you guys all go home. Like it's very much this thing about like the power of music, and me being my dad being music, like I don't play music really. I'm a big obviously music fan. But my dad was a musician, or is a musician. He was in some bands in the 80s and stuff like that. And whenever he talks about this stuff, it reminds me a lot of like me, talking about like my writing and stuff like that, and how like really powerful just the medium of music is. And that's something that completely comes through in almost every single scene of this movie, whether it's something where the music is just there to just fill in like the Veritas Quo scene, and it's just like happening while they're going to do some cool spy shit, or it's like actually like, oh, these guys are playing music. The power of music is always right there in your face, or in your ears, I should say, throughout the whole runtime.
Like even when I don't know, there's maybe a few scenes where like it doesn't fit like 100% with the scene. But I think overall though the moods and the vibes are really strong.
Mhm.
Like, One More Time obviously is one of the best scenes for that, but there's also, well, first of course there's the song Crescendos, which is like, really
Mhm.
exciting like song,
Yeah.
and glorifying what they're going through as far as like they're becoming famous, they're getting fans, they're in the studio. It's basically the montage of them skyrocketing to fame. But then you get Night Vision, which is just a short, sweet
Mhm.
track, and it really captures the feelings that all the bandmates are experiencing, as well as what Shep is going through. It's kind of a dark point in the movie where they're just tired after their days and weeks of traveling the road and signing autographs and becoming this
Mhm.
larger than life band. And they're literally like tired, like they're sitting there like falling
Mhm.
asleep signing things and staring off into the over the city, just lonely. And like I like how they show visually the major change between when they're blue and when they're the Crescendos,
Mhm.
because when they're playing at the very beginning, they're happy, they're animated, they're just having such a good time with each other playing music. And the second that they become these shadow versions of themselves, they're like very serious. Like
Yeah.
the power is still coming through the music, but like they have a very stoic kind of look, all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, Night Vision, you see them kind of reaching the limit and feeling the stress of all of that. And one thing I want to mention, one thing that's interesting though, is
Mhm.
the what's his name, the bad guy, not baddie. I have to get my terms right. Earl the Darkwood. The only thing that doesn't really fit with your regular music industry taking advantage of artists thing is the fact that
Mhm.
he's the one being interviewed most of the time. That's
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
thing that like stood out to me, is like that wouldn't happen. That no one wants to talk to record executives on late night with David Letterman or whatever. Like it's just
Right.
they want to talk to the band. It'd be like if
Mhm.
the Beatles, like people had the Beatles sitting there, but they were only talking
Mhm.
to George Martin. That's like the
Right.
equivalent of what this might be. So
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
all of the things in it, that's the only thing. Like I get why they did it, because they're supposed to be kind of like mindless,
Comatose and like
or
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but also it was like, yeah, that wouldn't happen. That's the one thing that wouldn't happen in this whole order of operation. But I like
Yeah.
that
No.
he's there.
Totally.
He's got the giant the hair and everything. He's like really a
Yeah.
mustache twirling villain.
Yeah, absolutely evil. And then I love that he does come back at the end, because there's like, 4 or 5 songs where it's like, okay, cool, like the bad guy is defeated. Now it's just these people need to get off. And then he has that one. I love that
Oh
trope of
right,
like, oh, he's coming back at the end.
that's
But
right.
then Shep comes back too. You get to see like a double final like comeback where he defeats him in like their
Yeah,
space ghost or whatever. That
yeah.
was pretty great.
So yeah, like the second act of the movie is what you're well, you're talking about the third act, but yeah, during the second
Yeah.
act, basically we have Shep saving the day, and a great track that's being played is called Superheroes, which is
Mhm.
thematically relevant, because he in one of the coolest scenes in the movie, the Crescendos are playing in this big, massive stadium. The evil manager, Earl the Darkwood, is
Darkwood.
like
Yeah.
he's composing an orchestra for the whole thing. It's they're doing that thing that some bands do where they get big enough and they tour with an orchestra for one tour.
Right. They play like the bowl or something, Hollywood Bowl or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so Shep then comes in from like the top of the stadium with this really cool like jetpack thing, and
Yeah.
like he makes it
He
to the
throws off his coat like a
yeah,
badass. Like
yeah,
you think he's just like some homeless guy. And he's like, actually, it was me, motherfucker.
yeah, it was me the whole time. And he like flies to the over the crowd to the stage, and then like he frees 3 of the people in the band,
Mhm.
Arpeggius, Beryl, and Octave, but he doesn't get to Stella because Earl de Darkwood jumps in front of the beam.
Mhm.
So yeah, he then jets with the guys that he has freed from the mind control, but Stella, the name of the bass player, is still under the control of Earl de Darkwood. And then we get to this next part of the movie where they actually go to the golden record ceremony, which is,
Mhm.
the Grammys or whatever. And
Right.
what's cool about that scene is Daft Punk is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's
Great cameo.
there's not much in there with Daft
Yeah.
Punk, but like there's
Yeah.
like it says like something on one of their faces and then a question mark,
It
and
says happy and then like
happy.
question mark.
Yeah. I love that they communicate through their actual like LEDs on their
Yeah.
helmets.
It's kind of like how they had that cameo in Tron Legacy. It's
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
Daft Punk cameos. I'm always here for it.
Yeah, they're the perfect thing for like a non-speaking role cameo.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, it does beg the question, though: did Daft Punk in this universe steal one more time, or
I
cover
was
it?
thinking of that too, right? I was
You
just
know?
like, I guess in this universe they didn't make it. Like they didn't make that song. Like they had
Yeah,
different songs. I don't know. Like because I was thinking about that too. You can end up falling down like a yesterday hole. I think if you think about that kind of stuff too much.
yeah. Yeah, like I think it's interesting that the entire movie, like I think every time they perform, they're performing one more time, except for the very last scene where they're performing Too Long, which is a new song that they write on their way back home. But
Right.
other than that, like that's pretty much all that's all they're kind of like living off of. Their fame is all hinged on this one song that everyone just adores throughout, like universally throughout the world.
And it works because that is such a good song. It's like a couple months ago when I talked about Cloud Atlas, and it was like there's so much of that movie that's like, oh well, this is like this amazing song that reverberates through the generations, and it was created for the movie, and that could go really badly if you're like, this is an amazing song, you hear it and it's like garbage, you're like, what is this? And it's the same thing. It's like, okay, this is this song that's this hit that like set the world on fire, and if in the movie it's just like kind of bland or whatever, you're like, but it's like, oh, actually, One More Time did actually in our real world set the world on fire. Like that's an incredible song.
It is like it's just such a powerful like celebration of art and music and dancing. You're feeling so free, we got to celebrate. Like it's so vague and universal that it applies to so many situations. And to get into a little bit, I mean, we're going to get into it on my podcast, but the concept of Discovery as an album alone was that they wanted to reach back to that discovery kind of phase that that we all have, as children, where everything seems fresh and new. So the whole album is supposed to be from that kind of perspective, and this song is a good representation of that. Just taking it back to the basics of like, why do we make music? What is it for? Are we connecting people with the stuff that we're making? Like, is it relevant? And yeah, I think you can really hear that in a lot of these songs. The just kind of going back to the drawing board and like bringing out some of the best music they possibly can. Yeah.
And I just want to backtrack to something you were saying earlier that I was really speaking to me, which was when you have because you obviously start with One More Time and it's like a banger, and like the first 3 or 4 songs are all just like really like quick and you're really getting into the flow of the movie. And then when you have those slower songs, it's really good. I feel like it works for the pacing of the movie, which is pretty spectacular, I think, because I feel like the pacing of an album and the pacing of a movie are such different things that the fact that it works perfectly for both. It's like when these characters are at their like there's low moments, this slow song.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of albums they'll have all the singles at the beginning, there'll be these big quick songs, and then the last half of the album is all slow. And that's sort of the case here, but then there's also quick songs at the end. It also ends with like Too Long, which is more upbeat and quick, and so it does manage to pace it very, very well. And I'm kind of amazed that they were able to, because it is in the exact same order.
Yeah, that's the amazing part about it. Yeah, because that you would expect them, like anytime this has been attempted, it is usually in a different order. I don't think The Wall is in the same order. It's pretty close, I think, in The Wall, but I don't believe it's in the same order as the album. And yeah, for some of the reasons that you're saying, because different I don't know,
Mediums.
different mediums, different amounts of time. An album's usually less than an hour, whereas in a movie's like an hour and a half to nowadays like 3 hours. But different flows entirely usually. But that's part of the just genius about Leiji Matsumoto, like putting this together. Like he was able to really dig in and find the soul of these songs, as he brought the story together. And I think a good song that kind of represents what we're talking about here is the "Something About Us" song, where Stella has escaped because Beryl, he was at the Golden Record Awards and used the signal thing to stop the mind wipe or the mind control. And so she escapes with them. And in "Something About Us," we have that. I should mention, while they're escaping, Shep is mortally wounded by Earl de Darkwood's robot butler guys, bodyguards. Yeah. This is where you find out that they're robots.
Chase scene, like you don't know they're robots until one of them like almost gets exploded by like a semi truck.
Oh yeah, they have that trope where like there's a chase scene, all of a sudden a semi truck just fucking flips over one of them. Yeah.
And then he's got the reason he's a robot is because he like comes out of the fire like he's the fucking Terminator with the red eyes and everything.
Yeah. And for certain, like, oh yeah, these are robots. And I love though that like after that you have Shep. He's mortally wounded, and he is in his. Oh wait, I should mention. I think he's mortally wounded in the superheroes section, not in this high life section. I remember that wrong, but he is mortally wounded. He is in a space in New York's seedy underbelly. He's at some kind of storage container area hanging out. And what I love about this scene is he first, he asked to take Stella's hand, and because he's a big fanboy, as we saw in the previous scene, and he shows her his dream. You know what I mean? Like at the first instance, she like reaches out to him, and he is shown this dream from this poster of her, and then in this he takes the favor back to her and shows her his dream. And I just think that's such a beautiful way to do that storytelling wise, because the roles are just reversed essentially. And it's a nice like slower track, more emotional track, and it really feeds into the fact that this guy is dying. He's our hero of these guys is passing away, and he uses his final moment to show them who they were, and they kind of all realize like who they were, but they don't have their full memories back yet, but they just kind of get like a glimpse at who they are. And
those moments when they kind of like wake up, and it kind of it makes sure to like give you each of their faces and just see them kind of like they like shocked and like kind of like their memories start to come back to them. I really love that moment. It's a really powerful moment in the movie, because they don't shy away from this death either. It's something that they actually deal with in the next track. Like they go on that they get on the road, and they actually bury Shep. They have a whole ceremony thing, and you get to see them kind of coax Shep's soul into the sky with whatever alien spirituality that they have or whatever. They hold hands, and all of his like particles go up into the sky, and he's a spirit. And one thing too I wanted to say real fast about that whole sequence, and it's something that's true in the movie at large, but it's really particularly true here when, like, for example, Stella's like looking out the window and she sees like, I forget, it's cows or something. She sees like a kid, like, the kid's way, and it's these moments of like what Miyazaki calls ma, and they're these little moments that don't necessarily mean anything or like move the story along, but they're just the beats between beats that kind of make it feel more real. That it's like there's no
Yeah,
reason
yeah,
to show her looking out the window. It doesn't add anything to the plot or the story, but
yeah.
I was gonna say humanizes, but she's not human.
It alienizes
But it
them.
like it alienizes them, and it really feels like you it works well with the visual storytelling that is
Yeah.
on display throughout this entire movie. And that's one of the moments when I really noticed the moments of Ma or whatever, or whatever you might want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's
That whole
it's,
scene with them traveling is a really cool, just we've been through all of this stuff and it's time to breathe, and it's time to take a moment and to think about all the things that have happened so far in the film,
Yeah, because the characters need that, but we also need it because we've just been going through a lot of big plot beats. It's time to catch your breath with a slower
relatively
song.
quick amount of time, like compared to another movie where they might be doing the same thing. Because we only have as long as the song lasts before they got to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite sections of the movie, like going from Stella being awakened to them having this funeral for Shep. Just such a beautiful, touching part of the film that really alienizes it, as we were saying. But I think this is probably where shit starts getting a little weird, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of this is up to this point. It's like, oh, right. Yeah. This is a story about, the music industry doing what they've done forever, taking advantage of artists, squeezing all of their, artistic qualities out of them, and then throwing them to the side. A story told a million times. But then we get into like the magic stuff or whatever that Earl de Darkwood has been messing around with. They come to the Darkwood Manor, which is on a big creepy mountain, and it's like a castle, like from a Scooby-Doo cartoon or something.
Yeah.
And it's officially like final boss time is what I wrote down.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and we got this Veritas Quo song, which is, I think, what you were alluding to, where they're going through the castle. They're trying to figure out, why this card is telling them to go to this castle at this time. And they come across a book called Veritas Quo, which I think is one of the best examples of visual storytelling in the movie. Because, how else were they going to tell Darkwood's backstory? There's just
right.
Since it's all songs, there's not really a chance to just have an exposition dump, and this is kind of the exposition dump for Darkwood. You find out that aliens came and crash landed on Earth and accidentally, I think, killed his father because of the crash. It seems like, and so he uses this spaceship and technology to for some reason he seems like he's immortal too. I don't know why that is, but he does appear to be immortal, and it shows him throughout the years looking at the night sky, and finally it gets to the parts where he's actually taking different aliens from different places and repackaging them like you see in Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger.
And I love that it's like, okay, when you see him do this the first time to the crescendos, you're like, okay, for all you know, this is the first time it's happened. But it's like, no, he's actually been doing this for hundreds of years. And it gives you all this backstory and information in a very natural way. A lot of times when movies have to give you this, it's something that, for example, rightly or wrongly, Christopher Nolan gets criticized for a lot, where characters will just stop and they'll have a bunch of dialogue explaining what happened. Obviously, you can't do that in this film. There is no dialogue, so you have to really rely on the visual storytelling. And like you were saying, this is probably one of the times in the movie where that shines through the most, where they're doing such a good job of giving you all this information in an exposition, but it doesn't feel like an exposition dump. It doesn't feel like, and now we're just going to stop
natural,
and tell you this.
It doesn't feel like it is. The movie's stopping to explain it. It somehow fits with the rest of the story. Yeah,
absolutely.
Except for it is kind of weird that it seems like he's continuing to add pages to it or something. I don't know what kind of book this is, but Like, it's like
It's one of those journals where you can buy the extra pages and fill them in and stuff like
he's
that.
got like a special printer or something that just prints one page at a time. I don't know. It's kind of like the guitar ship, though. Like, it's not really something that you have to think that much into.
Yeah.
It
rule
exists,
of cool,
it works, and it moves along the story in a very efficient way.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
And but then they get found out. Then, as any sort of like sneaking around in a giant dark dungeon, the bad guy always finds you at some point. He's got to have his hands on you and have you in a pickle for a second. And this is really the first time you find out that it's like this weird cult thing too.
Yeah, he's got these like hooded acolytes and stuff like that.
Because like up to this point, it's like, oh, this has all been science fiction. Like the genre is pretty clear. And then there's this like magical thing going on with these records, some like demonic spiritual thing happening, where you find out in one of the pages he needs 5,555 gold records in order to rule the world, whatever that means.
Take over the universe.
The universe.
It's like that's It's that. It's step A, capture aliens. Step C, profit. Step Step B, who knows? Who
knows why we're just doing it. He doesn't seem like he wants revenge or anything. He just wants to rule the universe. So more power to him.
Classic bad guy move.
Yeah. I love that he's evil, and that's who he is. That's what he is. I appreciate when bad guys are like that, honestly. But yeah, he has this his whole that's shaped like Stella with the hourglass figure, So obviously he needs to like also suck away her soul to sacrifice it to whoever this is.
We should say this is the album that they won, the Crescendos won, is number 5,555. So like this is he's completed his thing after hundreds of years of sacrificing little Beethoven boys and whatever. He's got them all. This is the last one he needed.
Yeah, which like I don't think that gold records existed back in classical music times, but maybe in this universe that was the first gold record.
Right. Yeah, Salieri was like, Mozart got all the gold records. Yeah.
Exactly. He was very bitter about it. But so he's got all these gold records all over the place, and the two goons are there, the two robot goons are there, and somehow they managed to get their lasers out of their hand and shoots one of them. Then one of them tries to shoot the like crystal thing that Shep passed off to them, and it like blocks and like hits him in the head, and then both the androids fall. And the heroes are basically able to run over, help Stella, and the gold record goes into the lava pit. And so Darkwood dives in after it. You know?
He just fucking
didn't even think twice. He was like, no, this is my life's work. I need that record. And then all of his followers jump into the hole, which was crazy.
Right.
I was like, what? You guys like shouldn't be that
They're just
dedicated.
like lemmings. They're just like, he's doing it, we got to do it too. Boss went in, let's go. I just thought that was I really thought that was an interesting, like, I would not funny haha, but like fascinating moment where it's just like, cause I love that, like, it's not the Crescendos don't put him in, or they're not like fighting or something, like he just goes in himself because he's got this single-minded desire that he has to get this thing, and he doesn't even stop to think, I'm going to melt in lava now. It's like Gollum going after the ring almost, like into the fucking lava.
Very much.
And then his acolytes have the same, like, oh, there goes Boss, we got to go after him.
Or like, I don't know what to do without Boss, so I'm just going in. And then you see, the castle crumbles, and you see his spirit fly up into the sky, which we'll come back to. And then what I think is really interesting about this story is that after this, there's another part, Short Circuit, where they break into the record company with the information that they have memories that are missing, and they know where to find those memories, And I have to say, though, so we have the keyboardist running around getting stuff at the record company, and the keyboardist finds some stuff. He's about to he finds the record. It's like the master, and then under the master there's their memories in the little discs. And he's trying to escape, runs into the cops, and with a good old little bit of police racism, he reaches in to try to exonerate himself, show what's he's actually doing, and gets tased by the cops.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting though is he turns blue. The record executive is there, who's not necessarily, he's not a bad guy or anything. He just likes music. And contrary to what happens in any other movie in this scenario, everyone bands together to help these aliens get back home.
Right. I love that, because you're expecting it to be like, oh no, they had to just break in here, now they're gonna have to bust him out of jail or something like that. And it's just no, we beat the bad guy, he might show up again later, but these people love these musicians, and they care about them so much that they want to help them out. It's the power of music. It's the positivity.
And the entire
I think that was
world.
Such an interesting inversion.
Yeah. Yeah, they all come together. The UN is talking to each other about this space travel and stuff, and it's really just the opposite of what I'd expect from any other science fiction film. And like you were saying, the power of music, and everyone just loving them and their song and what it brought to them is just so nice to witness, and so powerful.
Yeah.
That instead of being selfish and wanting to keep the crescendos to ourselves, we were like, no, let's get these guys back. There's that guitar spaceship in the woods. Let's pick it up, put it back together, and
throw some NASA suits on them.
Yeah. Make this roller coaster thing that launches them into the stratosphere. Yeah, such a cool almost an opposite montage to the Crescendos montage, where they're kind of coming up in the record label and record industry. Although I will say that there were some people that were doing blueface in some of those crowds, which I
did notice that.
I have to think is a little.
I was like,
is
that culturally acceptable?
Can we do that? I don't know. I don't know if you should be out there doing blueface if you're not, blue. But it was mostly kids though that I saw doing the blueface, so they don't know any better. And as long as they're not becoming a politician later in life, they should be okay.
Right. They're not going to star in The Wizard of Oz a year later.
Yeah, no. It's they'll be okay. They'll be fine. But yeah, I think that scene is really good. I love the song "Face to Face" as well. It's one of my favorite tracks, I think, on the album. Yeah, it's just it gives me so many good feelings, I guess, to see it. Yeah. But of course, they're not completely out of the woods yet, because they they make this. I don't know. There's this wormhole thing that's square. It's like a shape. It's like diamonds,
it's like a diamond.
That spins around,
which is how they get there in the first place.
Yeah. They don't really, it's just visually it looks cool. Basically, is the logic I could come to with it. But
which is in tandem with everything else that's happened in the movie.
Yeah, and much like in, say, to bring up a popular spacefaring movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, they get into the portal to send them home or whatever, and there's this weird psychedelic place that's in between space and everything else.
Or it reminded me of 2001 a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. What's going on at the end of 2001, where he's going through all the different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, the spirit, you can see the spirit of the bad guy get into the little vortex before they get through, and it immediately envelops them, and he's back, and you see his face in the same shape as how he was as a human, and then he engulfs the ship. But we got Shep coming to save the day one last time. He holds him back, and then goes off and destroys Darkwood and allows the band to get back to their home. I love that, like, after he sacrifices himself, the band goes back into his room and sees
Mhm.
all the posters of them, and kind of they finally
Yeah, that's
realize,
such a
like,
great moment.
he's a super fan. He loves us, and
Mhm.
he was doing this because he loves us, and all that. And his sacrifice just meant so much more in that moment.
Yeah. Like, Stella kinda looks up and sees the poster of herself that he was looking at earlier, like,
Hmm.
it's such a full circle moment.
Yeah, yeah, and like I love especially with Stella, she's got this, very limited experience with this guy Shep in comparison
Mhm.
to him understanding her experience.
Mhm.
And so she's got kind of this, like, I don't know, one that got away situation with this Shep guy. Like there was
Mm.
definitely some
Yeah.
sparks during that last moment that he was alive,
Mhm.
and she never really gets they neither of them ever get to really experience that
Mhm.
fully. But I love that this also then inspires them to write again.
Yeah.
They write a new song together and they're performing it on the way home. And it's such a good story beat because of the fact that they just went through the whole rigmarole of the record industry and they got chewed up and spit out. And this is them finally free of the record industry and able to create meaningful art again.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, they get together, like, it's so, such a beautiful song and so well written that they immediately, when they get back to their planet, they like beam down and they're immediately playing a concert. Like no
Yeah.
rest whatsoever.
Right.
They're just ready to get back to jamming out with their fellow blue people, who it
Mhm.
seems like that's all they do on that planet is just jam out and dance. So,
Seems like a cool place.
and what's cool is they poured it out to Earth. Like Earth gets to
Yeah.
also share
Mhm.
in this experience. So like they don't leave their fans from Earth
Mhm.
behind. They're just another fan base that exists in the universe for this group,
Mhm.
which is so nice to the fans. I mean, I think it's such a great like
Yeah.
plot point to show like how much they care about their own fans too, and the importance
And
of
now they're
that.
doing it for the love of it and, the passion for the fans and stuff, and
Yeah,
rather than, for this corporate entity or whatever, like, they've
yeah,
gotten back to, like, the truest
yeah,
way to, like, a reason to, make music. And then you
yeah.
also at that moment get the statue of Shemp, or Shep, and it's
Yeah,
just that's such a cool ending for that character.
yeah.
It's a nice little tribute to him.
Well, yeah, because he went from like a fan slash, I don't know if he was a space trucker guy, but that's usually
Hmm.
the career path that a lot of characters have in these animes. But yeah, he becomes immortalized, which is
Mhm.
beautiful. And they vanquished this evil that was going throughout the universe and taking people and all that. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just such a well-rounded story and experience with so many, like there's like a hero's journey of sorts. There's like
Mhm.
the record industry journey that everyone knows about. There's a lot of really interesting arcs for this movie,
Mhm.
which all really come together well at the end. But
Right. And speaking of the end, what do you think of that last scene when you see it's like a kid? You see, like, it kind of
oh right,
zooms out and it's like a Daft Punk record, and it's like a kid and he's got like dolls, like little action figures or whatever of the actual Crescent dolls, and his mom tucks him into bed and the disc is kind of skipping, and like it's like almost like the beginning of Super Smash Brothers with like this little kids,
yes,
like the
it
little,
is. It is
right?
absolutely like the beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good call. Yeah, yeah, I thought so. I think that I don't like the idea that it's all in his head. I don't like, because it's such a
Right.
great story that I like the idea
Mhm.
that it did happen somewhere.
Mhm.
But I think it's a cool inclusion considering the album itself was written to get back to that kind of childhood wonder and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's like at the very end, Daft Punk injects the actual concept for the album just a little bit.
Right.
So
Yeah.
again, I don't like to think that it didn't happen. I think that generally those, like, it was all a dream things, like, I don't know. Like there's a couple good ones for sure, but
Right. I'm the same way. I don't like that. Like none of this really mattered endings. You know, I almost take it like it's like a Link's Awakening kind of thing, where it's like
yeah,
that's one of
yeah,
the few times where I actually it's like at the end of that game, like it was a dream, but like the things that happened, it still mattered and like might still actually continue on. And yeah, it's like for me, it's just like okay, yeah, like we are like the kids listening to this album, watching this movie, and I don't
yeah,
think it necessarily means like none of that we saw in the reality of this movie happened. It's not the end of Saint Elsewhere or whatever. I think it's
yeah,
like yeah,
yeah.
this is our experience of watching this movie, and maybe that kid, you know, is just a fan. He's a kid on Earth that is a fan of the Crescendos and is listening to them,
Or a fan of
and,
Daft Punk, because Daft Punk
or a
does
fan of, yeah,
exist
yes,
in the
or
universe.
both.
So
Yeah, he's a fan
yeah,
of both.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we've established that Daft Punk exists. So
And okay, so Daft Punk is covering the song "Too Long." Then, if it's on their album,
okay,
you know what I mean?
there you
Because
go. Yeah,
that
that's a
was
good point. That's
broadcast,
a good
and
point.
he's listening to
Mhm.
Daft Punk. So maybe Daft Punk
Yeah,
became a Crescendos cover band after this. You know,
right. Yeah,
maybe
that
that's
could.
how their
Yeah,
success continued on in this
yeah.
universe.
They could became like Johnny Cash late in his career when he was just covering a bunch of Nine Inch Nails stuff, and it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, you know, might as well, you know, if people like it and the band isn't on Earth anymore, so you know, they can be like the greatest Crescendos cover band in existence, or in
Yeah, and I'm
Earth's
sure
existence.
exactly. I'm sure like the rights, you know, can't be like it's like, oh, who has the rights to this evil wizard guy? Like he's dead. Don't even worry about it. We can cover it.
Yeah, I guess technically, because I mean, it's on a different planet, so I think
Yeah,
you can do. I think they're able to do whatever they want with that music.
yeah.
If I'm
It's in the
understanding
public domain,
copyright
I think.
law
Yeah.
correctly. You know.
Interdimensional copyright law or intergalactic copyright law. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
but
'Cause sometimes you just don't have to honor the copyright law in a different country. It just
Mhm.
sometimes it just doesn't have like in Japan. There's a couple instances where like well, there's a music video for that ELO song that's like kind of similar to this in a way,
Mhm.
where it is an anime music video that was done, I think, somewhat unofficially, and they're just able to do that because in Japan it's
Mhm.
different copyright laws than in America. So they're like, yeah, we'll make an anime music
Right.
video with all these different. Oh, there was like a bunch of like American cartoon characters in it and stuff. I don't, if you
Mhm.
do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen this?
I
It's
have
for the,
no, I have not seen it.
oh
I'm gonna
man,
look it up
I'll
after
have to
this.
send you this video because
Please
it
do.
is the exact same kind of thing as this movie, where it's like, you know,
Mhm.
contemporary United States music that is anime-ified or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
really good stuff. But
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely
Yeah.
talk more about the themes of you know, it being about childhood and all that when we have you on the
Mhm.
album concept hour. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's gonna be cool. And yeah, speaking of, you know, because the actual music behind the movie, because obviously the movie works very well. You know, I think it is a movie that you could, you know, probably put on mute and like thoroughly enjoy it. But what really it all works. It's like you said, unlike some other Daft Punk things and every other band that's tried it, it really holds together really well. But I think what really you need to have that stuff all stick together, you need to have some really good music, which
yeah,
this does. Like
yeah,
it doesn't hurt that this is literally one of the greatest albums of all time. Like I
yeah,
think this is Daft Punk's one of my favorite bands. Although I think Random Access Memories is close, this is definitely my favorite album from
yeah,
Daft Punk.
yeah,
And the fact that they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this musical project, and it's just gonna be the music in it is gonna be so amazing that yeah, you can just rewatch this movie all the freaking time.
yeah, yeah.
Which is, you know, something that I do. So, you know, I know we'll talk about it a little bit next week on your episode, but like, did you want to talk about like the actual music in the movie at all?
Well, ooh, that's a. I haven't done enough research yet to fully
Yeah,
like discuss the music the way I'd like to.
fair,
But
fair.
yeah, definitely when we have you on, we'll dive into that because it's like, yeah, I still don't fully understand why this album hits the way it does. You know,
Hmm.
because it is just there is just something very beautiful and special about it, and I think they capture that concept they're trying to get, where it's like we want to bring back that childlike wonder to the music.
Yeah.
Like with that, I think with that perspective, I'll be able to kind of understand this album better doing my research, But
yeah, absolutely.
I will say though, the last time that I watched this movie,
Mhm.
me and my siblings were tripping together. And this is the movie we watched while we were kind of coming down at the end of the
Oh
night.
man,
And it was like just a really beautiful special experience with me and my siblings,
Yes.
So yeah, this is definitely one that holds a special place for me.
That's always a fun experience with your siblings, is when you're in an altered state and you're watching something like this,
Yeah, I've never really done that with siblings,
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting experience, us all, knowing each other so well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's always really cool, especially when it's something like, I think I watched one of the John Wick movies with my brothers, or one of my brothers, and it was just like those movies are so visually just like stunning, and so
yeah.
I can only imagine how good this one would be,
Yeah, it was perfect. We were staying at an Airbnb in the middle of the woods. It was just a beautiful night, ended with such a beautiful movie and everything. And we all loved Daft Punk, and I think my sister hadn't seen the full movie yet of Interstella, and we were like, "What? You haven't seen this? We got to throw this on right now."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's such again, I loved them separately. I loved the music videos separately, not even knowing that it was a cohesive story. I thought each one did such a good job of storytelling on each just particular music video that it was like I almost didn't need the full movie.
Yeah, that's the incredible thing, is that they work both on the micro and the macro level in terms of storytelling. It's like, yeah, you can watch them all as one movie, or you could just watch one movie. Like One More Time works as its own story, as its own song. You do kind of want to go to the next one, or Aerodynamic, or what, like any of those those music videos work as music videos. But they also work as part of this. It's almost like the Lord of the Rings movies, where each of them works as their own movie, but then as a whole they are like completed. So just like
hard thing to pull off.
The intricacy of this. Yeah. Very, very difficult to pull off, and they really did here, though. So yeah.
And I'm still, really, really hoping that someone eventually gives Gorillaz enough money to do a similar type of thing. Like that's the thing. So
cool.
Especially after having seen this, I was like, why don't the Gorillaz get a chance at this? They've been building a universe for so long,
right?
Like they've tried, they've gotten so close so many times to having a movie or something, and yeah. So hopefully one day while we still have Damon Albarn on this world, we'll get one of those.
yeah. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But before I get you out of here, I always like to ask my guests a question at the end. And since we talk so much about music videos, since you are so knowledgeable about music and music videos, do you have a favorite music video?
Ooh, favorite music video. Oh man. Now I think that that's a big question. I love music videos. That's like I'm definitely like at the tail end of MTV generation a little bit,
Yeah, I think we're about the same age. So I would watch MTV before going to school and be like, all right.
I love music videos. Like I almost want to start a whole YouTube channel just about music videos because it's such a great subject. But I think that what's probably on the most of on rotation for me would be the Iron Lung video by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It's
all right.
It's an AI generated music video, like right when ChatGPT and stuff was kind of being first talked about, and all the AI images and stuff were being kind of shared around the internet. It's a beautiful song. The video is got so many frames of so many pieces of AI art, and I mean this was kind of also like right before the kind of debate over like whether or not it's cool to be using AI art was coming up.
Right.
So like it came out, and then everyone's like, "Is this actually like ethical? What we're doing with these?" Because you can see in the video, you can see like authors' signatures every now and again in the like lower right hand corner, because obviously it's pulling from all this stuff,
right.
But really just visually, just a beautiful music video. And I'm trying to think of. Oh, Crumb has a good music video. I don't remember what the song is. Lock It. Crumb is a band that I really like, and their song Lock It has a really, really great music video that's like kind of a, I don't know, like a visually representing a mushroom trip, I believe.
Okay.
But in a very like real way, it's like there's not a bunch of like weird, stuff going on. They're just using like a lot of like 360-degree cameras, and it's just got a cool vibe to it.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like there's probably like one that I love more than all of these, but I go in waves, like there's music videos I'll watch like for a couple of months, then I'll go on to something else. Yeah. My Chemical Romance as a whole, all of their videos are pretty good as far as the production goes. Pup music videos are amazing. I don't know if you know Pup at all, but they have some really fun, like violent videos where like there's like one video where they're all like trying to kill each other because like the song is about how you get like annoyed with your bandmates on tour and you eventually just want to kill them. And in the video they're actually like trying to murder each other. It's great. But Pup, just all their music videos, top notch, just really, really good. I know you asked for one and I gave you four, so
no, that's all good. That's all good. No, it's all good. I'll throw one in myself. And like you mentioned the Gorillas, and I'm tempted to go with like a Gorillas one because they always have great ones. Like
their top tier music videos too. Yeah,
but I'll surprise Stylo with Bruce Willis, like so cool.
Yeah, how could I forget?
But I'll surprise absolutely no one and say that I think my favorite music video, and it's a sentimental one, is Mr. Brightside. Like that song is one that really got me into good music. Like I was into a lot more like generic, very just like poppy stuff that I didn't really have my own taste or style until it was about 13 or 14. Hot Fuss came out.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching that music video over. And it was like the days of the early internet, like pre-YouTube, I think. And I would just watch that thing over and over again. And it was just so cool and weird. And
it's a really good video.
It's really awesome. And like, it's just like glam punk almost. Like it's almost like what they would have called back then like metrosexual, but like we're just like,
it's
all these straight
word.
guys, but they've got but they've got like eyeliner and stuff, and it's got Eric Roberts just being like this villainous guy, and like people doing like French tutus, and
they somehow got Eric Roberts. Like how did that happen? But
I mean, Eric Roberts, I know people who have gotten them in their movies and stuff like that. I know Eric Roberts just loves to work. He's one of the guys
he's one of those guys. Okay,
he'll shoot one movie in the morning, another movie in the afternoon. Like look at his IMDb, it's like 1,000 movies, but I mean, he's still great. Doesn't take away from how great he is.
I like actors like that because like you can see him in literally anything.
Yeah. I just always remember it was right at the beginning of lockdown, and it was so great because like Ronnie Vanucci, the drummer, and Brandon Flowers, the lead singer, were like quarantining together.
Yeah.
And one of the things they did was like they broke down the Mr. Brightside music video, and at one point like it's the iconic thing where like Brandon Flowers like tosses the apple, and Ronnie's like, "What's the apple?" And he's like, desire. It's longing, or something, like he said something like that.
Hell yeah. Do you know what music video that lost to for the MTV Video of the Year?
I do not.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Oh man,
yeah,
I remember that was the one.
When that happened, when they lost, that music video lost to Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which is basically just a one shot of Billy Joe walking. I was so pissed as a young man. I was like, the production is night and day between the two of them. Like Mr. Brightside is a production, and Boulevard of Broken Dreams is just dude walking down the street. Like it was, I was so pissed because Mr. Brightside, like you said, it's such a great music video.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my gripes that I bring up on the podcast every now and again. Every time the Killers are brought up, I'm like, it's still wrong that they lost to Boulevard of Broken Dreams on that music video
it's like how the
ceremony that no one cares about.
The King's Speech beat the Social Network, same level of injustice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Every now and again, it's like, what? No, this is clearly better art. What the hell?
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well put. Well put.
Yeah.
Well, Brad. Thank you one more time for coming on. This was an absolute blast.
Thanks for having me
really
for this one. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I was like, you're the perfect guest for this. I've got to have, because it's a movie I've honestly wanted to cover for a while.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of anybody better to cover this. You know, slots into what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk about the other side of this on your show.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how these conversations like pair with each other. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Which is already by the time you're listening to this, it is out. So look up the album concept hour episode about Discovery, and you can hear Derek here and me discovering Discovery. So
there you go. Yeah, I am looking forward to it, but you guys will have already experienced it, you know, or if you haven't yet, go back and experience it, please. But yeah. If those people want to find it, Brad, where can they find this podcast?
Well, we're on YouTube now, so that's where I'm usually sending people nowadays, just because Spotify has been kind of finicky. So and they're being weird with copyright stuff. So you can find it on Spotify, but I'd prefer you find it on YouTube, honestly. So youtube.com/flyover state park. That's my media thing that I put stuff out on. So you can find it there. You can even find a short of it there. There's going to be like a 1-minute clip of whatever it was that we ended up talking about. And I look forward to seeing some comments and seeing what you guys thought of it. So we also have other YouTube stuff. We have YouTube stuff. If you want to see me visually, you like this voice, you want to see the mug that's attached to it. We got a lot of we have videos where we're eating hot wings while listening to progressively hot wings while we're listening to music that we like, or sometimes what we don't like. And we have a music movies tonight, which is every so many months we'll do a video where we react to a different weird music movie. So got a lot of stuff over there. Nice. YouTube.com/flyover state park. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All of those things will be in the description below, so check that out. And yeah, if you are somebody who's coming over here because you heard that episode we did over on the album concept hour, welcome. And I'd love for you to stick around, check out some more episodes. We got a whole backlog. Yeah. I just finished up a mini series that I did on alternative or director's cuts called extended editions. Had a ton of fun with that. Yeah. That was a blast. I had some very, very cool guests on, really fascinating stuff. But check that out. Check out, the other 130 episodes that I've got in the backlog. And then I do a couple other podcast things as well. Like yourself, I have a couple different stokes in the fire. I also do with my buddy Damien. I co-host a film review podcast on Mondays when this doesn't come out. So every other Monday, either Underrated will come out, or I'll do the Midnight Film Society with Damien, where it's kind of more of a conversational, what we've been watching, what big summer movie just came out type deal. Sometimes we'll have topics. And then you can also check out Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones, which is my MCU podcast, which is
nice
a little
title.
More... Thank you.
That's a good title.
Thank you. But whenever there's a new MCU thing, I do an episode on that. So, there obviously wasn't that much MCU stuff this year, so not that many episodes of that on the main
Except
feed.
X-Men
but
97. What?
There you go. Because I have been doing bonus episodes for it, so for things that are MCU adjacent. Yeah. So I am. It's actually I'm funny because I'm going to record it in like an hour on my episode on X-Men 97, which will be out long ago at this point. But it exists on the Patreon.
So good.
Which I call Underrated Disc 2.
Yeah.
Whenever there is a new MCU adjacent thing, I'll usually do a bonus episode there. Like I've got a Madam Web bonus episode.
Of course.
Check out right?
Yeah.
Patreon.com/underrated movie podcast to get the bonus episodes. I do another bonus podcast once a month on sports films. You also get episodes there of this podcast a week early and ad free. So there's a lot of good stuff. But if you don't feel like that, just a 5-star review. If you want to just support the show without doing any money, it's free to do that. We would love you so much to give our show 5 stars. Tell a friend, whomever. That about does it for me. This has been one more time, Brad. This has been a blast. Thank you for being such a great guest and bringing all your wealth of knowledge on the subject.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciated it and had a lot of fun.
All right, guys. I'll see y'all next time.